You know, this is a collecting's channel because collecting is just too sweet. Yeah, I'm doing a Kevin Nash impression. I'm wearing an NWO shirt, so oh well. Look, a lot of you know I'm a collector. Here's the evidence. What I don't talk about is, do I regret collecting? And the answer is no. I mean, looking at my collection, I think a lot of things. I think I spend a lot of money collecting stuff I don't actually watch. There is a lot in this collection that has not even been opened, as notable in the comments so many times. Why is it not open? Why have you not opened this? You bought it, why did you not open it? And here's the thing. I don't regret collecting, but I probably wouldn't do it all over again. The train for collecting of the glory days has surpassed. It's gone. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, look at 4Ks. Now, you might say, oh, the usual 4Ks like the Star Wars and the, all these things like, Too Fast, Too Furious, like Born Identity. Or Identity. I lisped on that. I don't know why. But, you know, so often here, you look at these and be like, oh, I can get them in JB Hi-Fi. I can get them from Amazon. They're pretty cheap. But what I'm talking about is the higher collectible titles. There's titles now going for like $60, $70, $80. I'm looking at you, Disney. I'm looking at the Disney ones over here for the MCU, like WandaVision and so on, and the Marvel and Star Wars TV shows, like The Mandalorian. There is just so much going for so much money. And that's USD. I'm talking about in Australia when I import it, it's like $100. And what that's saying to me is that the glory days of collecting and collecting stuff and upgrading and all this other stuff has surpassed us. Now, I don't regret any of my collecting decisions. I even don't regret putting Blu-rays in boxes over here, wherever it is, there. I don't regret that. Like, I would do that all over again. Because that's a space issue, I needed space, I got space, and that does stuff like that. But I wouldn't do all this all over again. I wouldn't recollect from the start. If I had not one DVD or Blu-ray, I wouldn't do it all over again. And the reason for that is that I think as collectors, we've kind of lost track of what collecting is supposed to be about. And I've said this in many different videos. I've said this so much. People have even called me a doomer or whatever, doomsday prepper or whatever, because it's like, oh, got to collect it all and do this and that. In a way, yeah. I do look at this and be like, you know what, it is future-proof. Or is it? I mean, so often now we're looking at editions where they will re-release stuff, like, as I said in many different videos, Jurassic Park, that's got a 25 re-release. And if I bought this version back in like 2018, 19, whenever it came out, this version is now better if I had waited. And then, I'll buy the 2025 version if I was going to do that. And then another version will come out. And I'll have to re-upgrade again. And, it's just getting to that point now where the glory days of collecting for the love of collecting and being like, I mean, they did this all the time with Dragon Ball Z, where they'll release like the level set, and then they wouldn't complete the level set, so they'll do the other versions, and then they'll do another version of that, and then they'll do Kai and whatever. So this has been around for a while. They did it with Lord of the Rings as well. They did it with the limited editions, and I've showed this before. They did it with this and that, and then they upgraded from the standard editions and VHS and that. But what I'm talking about is when you start looking at decisions of collecting and what you have to do as a collector, I wouldn't do it all over again, honestly. Like, yes, it's a lot of money as well, and I put this together over very many years, but I wouldn't do it all over again. And there's a reason for that, why I wouldn't do it all over again. A, it's just taxing to go out and collect everything. B, what happens so often is you'll be collecting something. Let's say you were collecting the Fast and the Furious. What will happen, and I don't know if this has happened with Fast and Furious, I'm not commenting on that, don't fact check me on that, but let's say you wanted to collect all of Fast and Furious. What I've found studios are doing is they'll go, oh, well, we've got everything else readily available. You can walk into a JB Hi-Fi or an Amazon online or whatever and buy pretty much all of Fast and Furious. But then they will say, you know what, let's put Fast 5 out of print for a bit. Why not? Or usually they do it with the first movie in the trilogy or the first movie in the saga. They'll go, oh, let's put Fast 1 out of production for a while. And then it'll shoot up in value and you won't be able to get it. As I said in many different videos, That's what happened to Bad Boys for a bit. It just went out of print and then you couldn't get it. It's currently what's happening with The Punisher. I mean, The Punisher is out of print at the moment if I can get it out. The Punisher movies are out of print. And if you wanted to have your Marvel collection, they're out of print. So do you understand what I'm saying here? I'm kind of getting towards the whole idea that, you know, when you collect, you want to have a whole collection. And this is what's really made me annoyed with the MCU. Like, they've got WandaVision out on Blu-ray and 4K, I've got Loki and all that. But, like, even though I don't like Miss Marvel, or even though I don't like She-Hulk, they should still be out on physical media, because if I want to complete the set, I can no longer complete the set. Star Wars have a similar issue, and so often we're just seeing this idea of like, oh, well, Stranger Things, great analogy with Stranger Things. I mean, we've just finished a season of Stranger Things, so let's do this camera up, because we're going to have a look at it. Up here I've got the Stranger Things from Netflix releases. They're two of the same, so there's one that's a Blu-ray release, and there's one that's a 4K release. Blu-ray, 4K, whatever. You get the gist. But it never went beyond season 2. Now, I know people say they had the unofficial ones out. There was the Academy screeners or the Emmy screener ones that people could buy. But them, if I want to go out and collect Stranger Things, like all the seasons, have them all side by side, complete the set, I can't do that. And this is what I'm getting to. I wouldn't redo it all over again, because you're just not getting that whole completion aspect. And I think they do it very deliberately. So you can go, okay, we will hold back this so they can buy it again. I have talked about this and a trend with it in stuff when I did one about Rocky, if I can get it out of there. So as I noted, Rocky did this. Let me bring it close to the camera because I'm going to talk about it, if I can get that glare off there. So what you can see here is Rocky did something very intentional. They put Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, and Rocky 4, but they put different versions of Rocky 4 on there, if you can see that. Let's put that ring light around there. So you can see they put different versions of Rocky 4 in there. Why wouldn't they put Rocky 5 in there? And why wouldn't they put Rocky Balboa in there and do the complete set? Now they went back and redid it later on, but if you bought this set like I did, you're going to be a bit annoyed, you know? You're going to be a bit annoyed that, oh, what? You know? They did the same thing with John Wick, where I've got John Wick here somewhere, where, there's a box set. If I can get it out, it's very jammed in. Very, very jammed in. So they did the same thing with John Wick. So they did like 1 to 3, and they had this box set and like 3 film collection. Pretty good for the money. Very good for the money. If you're chasing space, this is the way to go. But what happens when they added number 4 to it? You know, I'm not going to get number 4 out there because it's a steel book and it's still sealed. Well, let's get it out. We'll try. But if you went and collected number 4, now you've got this. And it looks so out of place. So what I did is I went and did the stupid collector thing of buying everything then. So buying them, and then this is kind of an extra now. So, you know, I'm not saying every collector does this. I am not making any insinuation that if you went and did this, then you're in the wrong. Every collector, here's to their own. But what I'm talking about is that I would not do this all over again. I would probably choose my 100 most valuable films that I have to have. I would choose like Titanic, Schindler's List, I don't know, Dawn of the Dead. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here that I would choose. But I wouldn't go out and redo the whole collection thing again. A, because it's getting too expensive, because studios have held back certain releases. And B, because it's just not as fun as it used to be, honestly. In terms of 4K, now if you're going out buying DVDs and Blu-rays and getting bags full in that, nothing wrong with that. That can still be fun. But what I'm talking about is when the new format is really starting to say, you know what, let's put back out Jurassic Park with Dolby Vision. And yes, as a collector, I'll be like, cool, I'm getting Dolby Vision now. Like, yes, this warrants an upgrade. But what happens if you spent money on that release over here? What happens if you spent money saying, hey, this release is the definitive way to watch Jurassic Park. It's on 4K finally, I have it. And then they say, yeah, but you don't have it like this, so you need to come and re-buy it. This is where the whole dilemma happens. Now, we could see a resurgence of certain formats like DVD, and even like, look at the horror genre. People go back and collect horror on VHS because they say it's just better on VHS. Less detail, something more nostalgic about watching it on a CRT with a VHS player. People are going backwards and saying, nope, I don't want the new versions. I don't want A Nightmare on Elm Street to look like it was shiny and shot yesterday, you know? I want it to have that graininess of like an 80s film. So many people are going back and collecting stuff like that. They're collecting DVD and saying, you know what? Here's another dilemma. I just want Charmed, for example. I just want Charmed, and I want it to be like it was shown on TV. No cropping for 4:3 to make it 16:9, where when you rip it, they still have the black bars on the side. I just want it as it was shot for television. And the bigger part of that, and this comes into the dilemma of collecting as well, and I'm going to grab one series in here that's very, very heavily altered these days when it's in syndication, because it's not politically correct anymore. If I want to watch Married with Children, now a lot of us know with the original Sony DVDs, they took out Love and Marriage, Frank Sinatra. They obviously didn't relicense it in the 07 or whatever releases. So we had the Sony releases come out without Love and Marriage opening, and they put that little generic theme over it. You don't realize how much nostalgia you lose by removing the original theme until you try to watch it. And I was watching it and I was like, this is not the same without Love and Marriage. You want to hear Frank Sinatra opening the show. So I went and bought the Mill Creek one, or Mill Creek one, whatever it's called. Yeah, Mill Creek. This one is different. It's a lower compression one, so it's like, or high compression, I should say. So it's more episodes in one disc, but it's like more compressed than the Sony releases. So you have to choose between something that looks somewhat pleasable on a modern TV in the Sony releases versus something that is more complete with the Mill Creek. And both still don't get it right because they're not the TV versions. There are obviously versions of Married with Children that you just can't release again today because it's so politically incorrect, you can't do it. This is what I'm talking about. I love Married with Children. I don't care what anyone says. That's my opinion. I love watching Al Bundy. It's fun. I don't care about the political ramifications of liking that show. I care about going back to a time in my childhood where I watched Married with Children. That's not me making a choice about, oh, I'm politically incorrect or blah. It's me saying, you know what? I just want to watch Al Bundy and be entertained for half an hour. You don't have to agree with Al Bundy to enjoy the show. You can be watching it and be like, yeah, this is just stupid fun. And we went off on a bit of a rant there, but what I'm saying is that when you get new versions as well, they're so often altered. Like, there is a reason why I have not went out and bought Crocodile Dundee on 4K. It's because it's altered. It's the encore cut now. I don't want the encore cut. I want the cut I grew up watching with all the political incorrectness and all the shtick in there, all the thing. Now, there is stuff in here that can be worth upgrading if you were coming straight from like a VHS copy, like Mad Max. The reason why I have two versions of Mad Max on 4K is this one is the Warner Brothers release. This is the Kino Lorber release. Now, the Kino Lorber release has the original audio that was on the VHS tape and the original Australian audio. Very important. This one doesn't. Now, you might say, oh, but, if I grew up in America or whatever, you might not care too much about that. I grew up watching the Australian release. So I want to hear the Australian audio that I'm used to. And for years and years, that was just not available on DVD, not available on Blu-ray. It was just not on anything other than VHS. So you saw Betamax tapes going for big amounts of money. You saw VHS tapes going for a big amount of money because it just wasn't available on the new formats. That corrected it. And I think people may have still had an issue with it here or there, but they corrected it. Now, this is a big dilemma of collecting again. Would I do it all over again? No, I wouldn't start from zero right now. In 2026, I wouldn't do it all over again. But I don't regret my decisions with collecting. I don't regret anything I've done with collecting other than when I tore down my original collection. I shouldn't have done that. But, I've learned since that, in my second iteration of tearing down my collection to fit in boxes, I'm keeping everything. I'm keeping the sleeves. I'm keeping the artwork, the stickers they call it. What is it? Not stick. What is it called? It's called the slick. The slick, I think they call it. But they got that. I'm keeping the disc. I'm keeping the disc in a way that is in a paper envelope that has never scratched a disc, and I've been using them for years, like 10, 15 years. Never scratched a disc on me, so I've been using them. I'm just looking at ways to be like, you know what? Every decision I make is a preference of and an extension of who I am. So I don't regret any decisions I've made with my collection. But I want to start collecting again in 2026, honestly. I mean, and this is not a knock on anyone who's going out and starting their collection in 2026. No problem with it. But what I would say is that be more cautious, be more selective, and also with stuff like this, I mean, make smart collecting decisions. I mean, if there's a movie you must have, like I've got up here, let me tilt this up. I've got Dawn of the Dead over here. I paid a silly amount to get that. I think I paid $300 or $400 when it first came out. Now, obviously, that's went up in value, as has Bruce Lee up here. I haven't opened Bruce Lee, though. I have not opened Bruce Lee. But, you know, Bruce Lee's in my collection. But here's the thing. To buy those now, you're looking at least probably $1,000 for the Bruce Lee box set. For Dawn of the Dead, I don't even think they have that release anymore. I think that was a limited edition. So to get that exact one, you're looking probably $1,000, maybe even like 800 or something. I would not do it all over again, is what I'm saying. I just wouldn't. And I would, if I was going to do it all over again, with Dawn of the Dead, for example, I might just be okay with Blu-ray and be like, you know what? Yes, you're getting extra resolution with 4K. Yes, it'll be better. But is it really a need to have? Now, in case of Dawn of the Dead, yes, it is a need to have. But you know what I'm saying? Do I really need? Oh, do I need to watch like Superman? Like I have not went out and bought Superman for the DSE collection yet. The new Superman. Do I want to have Superman in the collection? I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is a pretty good movie, but I mean, do I need it? I mean, they're talking about like Warner Brothers getting sold, and then they might do another reboot, and then it's like, do I want to go out? You know, it's not a Man of Steel or a, you know, the Christopher Reeve version or anything. It is different. That's where I'm going to end it, guys. And actually, I'm looking to summon off here because it's another physical media type. CDs. What happens when the versions don't match anymore? Here's Taylor Swift. Yes, I went to the Eras tour. I don't regret it. But what happens when, like, for the longest time, Swift fans were very much told, don't go and listen to the older versions because of Scooter Braun or whatever the deal was with her albums and masters. She's got them back now, and now her fans are now saying you can listen to them again, guilt-free, all that. But for the longest time, it was told that the versions you want to listen to are the ones that she re-recorded, Taylor's version. And I kind of look at this as like, this is Jamie's version of the collection, but also, as I said, I wouldn't do it all over again. I mean, Taylor went back and re-recorded her albums. I wouldn't go back and collect all over again unless I absolutely had to. And if I had to, I'd go in with the knowledge of like, buy Titanic, buy The Punisher, buy what I want to watch. What I'm going to watch probably 6 or 7 times a year. Maybe not everything. Like, as I said, there's so much in my collection that just isn't opened. And that's a dilemma. So let me know what you think, guys. Is there stuff that you regret about your collecting journey, like that you wouldn't go back and do again? Or is there stuff that you are like, no regrets, I would do it all over again, I would go out and spend that amount of money? What is the question, like, what is the answer for that? Like, what do you guys say as the collecting community? Or am I just being a doomer or whatever they call it, just saying, yeah, I collected all my Blu-rays and I can get out now because I got them all. I don't know, guys. Let's hold up the world title again. I'm the champ. I sold my big belts, by the way, so this is why I've got the little toy belt. I sold my big belts, so yeah, I kind of like this one. It looks like the title belt when I was on Big Show. Who remembers what I'm talking about? Anyways, guys, let me know down in the comments. I'm ending this video. I don't know. Go watch all my other videos. Peace.